All right. We are live. Welcome, Thrilligans, to another episode of Ashley and Patrick Do a Release Party. Are you there, Ash? Can't hear you. No, you're muted.
Can you hear me now?
Yeah, okay. Because I've done this many times and it never works out properly, please let me know if you can hear us both. And if you can, then we'll get started right away. Just like thumbs up in the chat or something to let us know you can hear us both. Somebody? Anybody? All right, I'm going to go ahead and pretend like you guys answered that. Welcome, everybody, to another release party. Today, we are celebrating the 9th book in the Chase Adams series, which is by far my best-selling series, and it's called Already Dead. And I know a bunch of you have already bought it. A bunch of you already read it. Still waiting for those first reviews to go up, but so far the general consensus is that you guys enjoyed it, so I'm super stoked about that. I'm not really sure why it looks like I'm in an ice box and Ashley, who is downstairs, in a bit of a sauna. Like, I don't know what's going on with the color temperature here, but we're going to roll with it.
I can't even see anything, so I'm in like my own world here. I can't see anyone. I can only hear you. Can't see you.
What's up, Brooke, Brandy, and Kathy? You can't hear me at all? I guess not. All right. Thank you for joining. Today we're going to do a fun Q&A. I'm going to talk a bit about the book. Maybe I'll do some reading, although I'm a much better writer than I am reader, for the record. And I'm enjoying today a nice stout.
And I'm having a G&T.
There you go. Kathy says that she loved Beckett's novella. I guess this is a dual release party, right? Because I put out last week or the week before, I put out a Beckett novella called Residence Evil. So a little play on words there. And it basically goes and discusses some of the time before when he was still a resident and not a medical examiner. Excuse me. One of my patented burps.
So gross.
Yeah. Some tough questions, whatever. Yeah, I always get roasted on these things. I'm not sure why. This is my stream. But yeah, I loved writing that. I wanted to write that for a while. And basically, like I was just saying, it cleared up some of the stuff that happened in the past with Dr. Swancia and the other doc. I forget her name right now. I'm brutal with names. And then it kind of leaned into the present. And I think when we had discussions in the Facebook group, someone had mentioned like what a funny second career would be for Beckett, and I kind of ran with it. So it was, I don't want to spoil it, but basically he becomes an educator of sorts, and in typical Beckett fashion, nothing about it is normal. So he's doing sex education for high school students, and of course he walks down the hallway wearing a 100% gimp suit, and he's in New Orleans now, so he's sweating, and it's just horrible. And so I think he's probably going to get fired. Now, I really like to write another Beckett book, a full novel, and I have a good idea for it. But as you guys know, I'm not great at pre-order deadlines, so I'm not going to put that one up. Maybe I'll roll with it. But
tonight's not about Beckett.
It's a dual release party, but yeah, okay, you're right. Here, let me get more centered in the frame.
We're going to focus on Chase tonight.
Yeah, everyone loves Chase. Everyone loves Chase. Yeah,
so should we start with me asking a little bit about your inspiration for this one, Already Dead?
Right. So I'm not going to do too many spoilers. I'm going to try to stay away from spoilers. I'll do my best. But I guess this could have crossed over as a Beckett novel, actually, because it deals with a psychiatric condition, let's say. Again, I'm trying to mark my words so I don't spoil anything for you guys. But it's a very interesting condition, a very rare condition, and so that was the inspiration for the book. Yeah, I know that's a brutal answer, right? But
it was something that you read about. So how did you even come across this?
I don't know. I don't remember when I first came across it. I cannot recall. I think so. I don't know if I told you guys this before, but the main inspiration I think I've said this. I love the show Hannibal. I think Mads Mikkelsen and I don't know the other actor's name. They do a fantastic job, and Chase is in part based on that character, the FBI agent. And although there are many differences, he has like some sort of like he's on the spectrum, and he sees like the way crimes occurred. So in Chase's case, she has this this history that has helped her, or inadvertently helped her, her subconscious rather, put together the pieces of a crime, even though she doesn't understand what's happening. That's what her mind is doing. And so I think on one of those episodes, they do deal with somebody who has this condition, and maybe that's the first time that I heard about it.
Let's go with it. Sounds better than I'm not sure.
Okay. Thanks, Tips.
Okay,
right.
So other questions that I've been thinking about, because spoiler for the rest of us, I guess, is that I haven't yet read this book. So
oh, really? Big surprise, eh?
It is a big surprise because I've read the Chase books. So this is number 9, and I think
it technically will be like 9.5, right? Yeah.
I'm up to date on Chase. Let's not talk about the other series for now, but I'm up to date.
Should we ask her some tough questions about that and see if she comes up with the answers?
Oh, like I don't remember a show after I watch it. So let's not do that. But this isn't about me tonight. This is about you and your, your recent novel. For once, it's not about me.
For once, it's about me. Interesting.
So here we are talking about Already Dead. I would like to hear a little brief synopsis because some of the people here may not know the kind of the synopsis. I do want to also hear a little excerpt, but that'll come later. But the synopsis, if you can do your best to summarize what it's about without spoilers, please. I would love to hear that.
Okay. All right. So without spoilers, right? And this one is very difficult to do without spoilers. So again, I'm going to mark my words and welcome everybody. We just had like another bunch of viewers join. Feel free to ask questions in the chat, and I'll probably get to them at some point. But basically, there are two separate murder-suicides that occur miles apart. So one happens in Columbus, Ohio, and one happens in Charleston, West Virginia. And the MO, I guess, the modus operandi, are very similar. So you have a filthy vagrant, a female, but other than that, not much is known about the individual, and they basically attack a random stranger, and they cut them with a knife, slice their carotid, and then they turn the knife on themselves, and they immediately, they both expire, let's say.
So both were women in separate states.
Correct, and both are like foul stank. There's a lot of smells in this book. I'm gonna warn you. Like, I don't know what was going on at this point in my life, but like, there were a lot of smelly things happening. These people really smelled bad, like really bad. And so, yeah, exactly. So you have the murder-suicide of a vagrant and a seemingly random individual. And in this case, as I say in the brief description, it wouldn't even register on the FBI's radar. But as we know, and as I point out several times in this book, it's not necessarily how you die, but I guess it's who you know when you die. So someone asks as a favor to get some FBI help in here, and they come in and they, a lot of smells, eh, Kathy? Like, really gross. I don't know what's going on. And so they get the FBI's help to come in, and then eventually, so I have an introduction of a new character, and then a mention of another character, which is important because that other character is going to come up and get his own series, but and then Chase eventually gets involved. And when Chase gets involved, well, things never really work out as planned. A couple other things about this book. I tried to draw, and I mentioned this in the author notes, so I don't want to, again, spoil too much, but I really tried to draw comparisons between people from very different walks of life and very different psychological disorders or other conditions that have a lot of similarities. And I bring it all back to Chase because she is a dumpster fire of emotions, let's say. And I also bring back some previous characters that, she was involved with in Franklin, Tennessee. So I'll leave it at that. Again, I don't want to spoil too much, but let's say that Chase is not in her best in this book. She's not at her worst, though. I think her worst was the beginning of Amber Alert, or the end of it, anyways.
Okay, so she's not at her best, but speaking of best, is this a book that you would classify as your best?
Well, I mean,
do they just keep getting better?
You can't improve on perfection, right? Like, let's see. Mm-hmm. I would say, and I always say this, so I'm going to sound cliched here, but it, my books, I try to just improve every time I write a book, right? So I try to make things a little different, but I try to improve on just extracting the most emotion out of the characters and then therefore in the readers. So with this one, I really, really enjoyed it. I love the comparisons between these people, as I mentioned, who are so different, and they have, different conditions, different problems, and yet their minds work in very similar ways. So I really like this. One of my favorites for sure.
Okay, and so right now there are 9 books. Will there be, I know that there's a 10th already slated. Do you imagine there being more than 10?
Oh yeah, for sure. These are some softball questions.
Do you have
These
them
are
already
some
written?
softball questions lobbed at me.
Well,
wherever Chase takes me.
We start
Wherever Chase takes me, I'm at the whim of my characters and my bank account.
They tell you where to go. Okay, so
yeah, wait, but to touch on that, sorry, Ash. There is another book that's lined up. It's called Direct Evidence. and it's due at the end of the month. So, like, spoiler alert, that's not going to happen. But you guys are probably used to that by now. Like this, you know, if I want to get a little personal here, this past month has been just utter shit. Like I had back injury that sidelined me for 3 weeks. I had gastro, and then followed up with a sinus infection.
Oh, I didn't notice.
That was sarcasm. So it's really not been a great month, and I've been behind. But this book has really energized me, and it's got me back into the mind frame that I want to be in. So direct evidence has to do with, and there are some cliffhangers in this book. The main story, these are the kind of books I like to write because you have like the main story, right? I don't like books where you get roped into this one major event and then that doesn't come to a conclusion. To me, that seems a little bit cheap. But in this case, you have this overarching storyline, which is again Chase and Tennessee, and that remains unresolved. But the whole issue with these two vagrants, that is concluded. So I really like these. So the Franklin, Tennessee issue has to be resolved in the next book, and then it's going to deal with another character that you guys know who's framed, or he claims to have been framed for a crime, and Chase is roped into that. So that will be the next book in the series, Direct Evidence. I'm hoping next month. I'm not really sure. The next actual book that, so I finished Dangerous Company. I know this is a Chase release party, but we'll talk about Drake for a moment.
I'll permit that.
Oh, thank you. Drake, I finished Dangerous Company, the first draft, and so I'm going to finish editing that, hopefully get that to you guys like next week or the week after. And then I want to wrap up Tommy Wild's story. Look, the merchandise.
Yeah, you wear the most of all your merch. Yeah. You wear Tommy Wild the most.
I'm telling you, like I don't know. Excuse me, I don't know what happened with him. He keeps coming up. I don't want to force him upon you guys. Like, to be honest, like Tommy Wild does not sell well, like at all. I don't know why, but he keeps showing up because of his job, because of his profession as a crime scene cleanup guy. He comes and he interacts with Drake and Chase, well, when she's in New York, but he's, situated there. So he comes up a lot, and there are a lot of like cool, nuanced story arcs that kind of weave together. But yeah, I want to finish that story, and that'll be just one more book. There are 3 out now. I'll finish that up in the 4th, and I'll hope to get that one's like maybe a 3rd written. So I hope to get that one done. So 4 Wild Families and 4 Wild Families, and then Dangerous Company, and then Direct Evidence. Yeah, and we'll go from there.
How long did this one take you to write, start to finish, not including the editor time, but just like you started writing it, you finished writing it? How long did it take?
You don't like the green color there, Ash?
I can hardly see. I'm trying to read the names.
I think if I try to change it now, then it's going to crash the whole thing. So I'll leave it for now. But, so first of all, you mentioned something about the editors. So they were fantastic on this. Like I have 2 editors on retainer. I have a guy named Graham and a girl named Alexa, and I've been with them for a long time, and they are fantastic. Like they power through my stuff, and they give me suggestions. They're not beta readers; they're just mainly line editors, but they know me so well. They'll be like, "Oh, hey, you made a boo-boo here."
Alexa a woman, not a girl.
Okay. This is very woke. I'm sorry. This is live.
Just keeping you in check.
Okay. So how long did it take me? Like these past 2 years have not been great for productivity, and so I know you guys as fans have been frustrated with the constant delay and cancellation of pre-orders, and I have too. I think I spoiled you with a book a month essentially for a couple years.
I told you this whole time. I told you, like, expectations are high now, buddy.
I know. But like I've told you, I'm invigorated here. So I don't remember. I can't tell you how long it took me. I was jumping around a lot because I would have a pre-order, and then I missed that, and that one was canceled. So then I'd be like, oh shit, I have to do the next one. And so I'd work on that one, and then be like, oh fuck, I gotta go back. And then so I basically just terrible like prioritization, and I guess, scheduling. But like I
You're
said, I'm
back.
back, and there are a couple books that I have half written. The first Penelope June book, which is Dying to Breathe, I wrote half of that. Excuse me. So that will be coming out sometime soon. There is the Veronica Shade one. So I have a whole bunch of ideas, and people ask me all the time about the seventh book in the Haunted series called Sacrifice. I have a great idea for that, but the problem is, I have to go back and reread the 6 previous books, right? And in that case, because I'm drawing characters from the Family Values trilogy and from the Insatiable series, I got to read them all, and that takes a considerable amount of time. So I have to refresh my memory, so to speak.
And
but I'll get there.
You'll get there. Yeah. No, I think that you also kind of sidetracked with, as you were building your momentum with the podcasts, right? So that was taking up a lot of your time.
Yeah. So for you guys who have been living under a rock, I have 2 podcasts currently out. I have the one that I did with my eldest daughter, Abby, and that was so much fun. It's called Camp Fear. Basically, if I were to describe it, it would be a combination of R.L. Stein's Goosebumps and Alvin Schwartz's Scary Stories to Tell in the Dark. They are 3-part tales that are completely narrated by her, and edited by myself and written by myself, and I just love the shit out of them. So it's called Camp Fear Podcast. Just go and check it out. The second one is called P.T. Logan's 5 Minutes of Terror. I experimented with a pen name, P.T. Logan, for the sole reason that I wanted
super covert.
Yeah, it wasn't meant to be super covert, though. The whole point of it was that I didn't want kids who picked up, because I turned all the Camp Fear podcasts into books. I didn't want kids who picked that up to then be like, oh, what else has Patrick Logan written? Oh, I'm going to grab fucking heroin-addicted Chase who's sleeping with the suspects. Like, no.
I need therapy for life.
Yeah, exactly. So I kind of put that like pen name there. So anyway, so the other one's called P.T. Logan's 5 Minutes of Terror, and those are very short. Again, any age appropriate in terms of language and graphicness, let's say. It'll be up to the parents to decide how scary they actually are, and they're about 5 minutes, and they're written by me and also narrated by me. So I did those. Those 2 have kind of come to, I don't want to say an end, but like a natural conclusion for the first season. There are 11 episodes of Camp Fear, which run about 30 minutes each, and then there are 50 episodes of the P.T. Logan's 5 Minutes of Terror, and those are about, again, like I said, 5 to 6, 7 minutes, depending on the day. And they're completely different. It was a really good way for me to start my day writing a 5 Minutes of Terror, because it would get my juices flowing. I hate that expression, but
yeah, it's gross.
It's gross, but it would.
Your creative juices, you can say.
Ugh, even that is
still gross.
It's like saying moist and panties for women. It's not good.
Yeah.
The juices, squeeze the juices.
Okay, and moving on. So Already Dead. What was your favorite moment in it? Share your favorite moment. I know you always have a favorite moment in your Beckett books. I hear you chuckling along as you proof the audio of them, but.
Yeah, Kathy wrote earlier that she loved the novella, the Beckett novella, because she said especially the last couple of sentences. So, you know, the best thing about that is I'm poking fun at myself and other writers and just the way the world has just gone crazy with, cancel culture and all that stuff. So she's referring to a couple lines where I'm like, I don't remember who says, somebody says, well, this would make Beckett, your life is crazy. This would make a crazy book. Like, no one would believe it. And he was like, yeah, but no one would read it anyway. So, so I love those kind of quirky things. In this particular book, what was my favorite scene? Is that what you're asking?
Yeah,
Ash?
favorite scene, favorite part. Yeah.
Oh, ew.
Like, not the smells, because that'll be no one's favorite.
Yeah, there are a lot of smells in this, man. Well, what was your favorite part?
I told you I haven't read it yet. Can't throw it back on me yet. I will get back to you on it. You just released it a few days ago, so give me time.
Okay.
I'm not Victoria. Is she here? Victoria reads things the quickest.
I know for sure.
She's a real.
Yeah, it's great.
the best.
It's fun seeing you guys like writing a few hours after it's released. Like, oh wow, I finished. It was great. I loved it. But I'm like, what the fuck, man? That took me so long to write, and you guys are blasting through it like it's I don't know, 30 minutes of Parks and
Just
Recreation.
candy. Just candy.
Oh, these are deep, deep stories.
Yeah, but it's a compliment. Once they get it, they just tear through it.
So I think this book has a real Floyd focus, and I can't think of an exact scene, but a couple of probably the end actually. So the one of the very last lines of not the epilogue but the last chapter that Floyd says, I'm like, oh wow, I think that is very telling for his character. And again, I can't say what it is, but that to me really struck home, where all this crazy stuff is happening around him, like really, really disturbing things, and all he can think about, he has that PTSD, right?
Mm-hmm.
Where he can't tell a parent or anybody who's lost a loved one. He has a very, very difficult time telling them that they're not going to be able to see that person again. And
Wow.
so
I think many people would.
Of course, I think if you asked any detective or anybody in law enforcement what the hardest thing to do is probably that, right? Reveal the fact that someone's brother, sister, daughter, mother, whatever, was killed in a violent crime. That just you just don't you don't really come to grips. Help me out here, Ash. Like,
you never get used to it, right? You never get better at it.
Yeah, and so Chase's technique is to completely, as she's apt to do, generally her character is to completely depersonalize everything, right? So she doesn't view them as people; they're victims or whatever they are, and so like whatever the technical term for them are, depending on the situation, and she would just use that, and that's how she deals with it. And actually, maybe that's my favorite part. She has this kind of dialogue with Floyd, and she says, "Listen, that kind of works for me. I know that doesn't work for you." But you really have to find something that works for you, because if you don't, this shit will just eat you up day in and day out. And then she's worried that Floyd is going down a path that will lend to his own kind of destruction. And she feels a little bit guilty because she's the one who brought him into the FBI. So I like I said, it's a Floyd-focused book, let's say. About half of the book is Floyd's perspective. And so him dealing with that, and then what I just said, the interaction with Chase, and then towards the end where these terrible events are happening, and all he can think about is that he doesn't have to, deal with telling someone that their loved one is dead. So he's like, wow, I feel good about that. Whereas situationally, it doesn't make sense, right?
So you mentioned there were two events that happened in different states that were very similar. Are they just similar and happening simultaneously?
Hey, Andy.
Hey, Andy. Or are they actually linked? Like, do you think these two vagrants know each other, or do you know that they know each other, or is it just a coincidence?
Spoiler.
Oh, it's a spoiler.
That's a spoiler. Can't do it.
Damn. Okay.
Can't do it.
Do the victims know each other?
Can't do it.
Oh.
Right.
All
So
right.
I'll say this: the FBI normally wouldn't be called in. I'll repeat what I said earlier. Because the FBI is only really called in when you have like cross state lines or other things that become like a federal issue. And so normally local law enforcement doesn't even want them involved. But in this case, they investigate one of them. They investigate one of them because one guy happens to be friends with so and so and so and so. So then they go, okay, as a favor, and this happens a lot, and they go in, and then again, anytime Chase gets involved, nothing is uncomplicated, let's say. So things get complicated because Chase's involvement, and then they think that perhaps they're seeing links between the two. But as one of the characters points out, I think it was Tate, the new character, Tate Abernathy, he says, like, look, if you stare at something long enough, right? If you're desperate enough to find connections, you're just going to find them naturally. That doesn't mean that the things are actually linked. So that was
People
another.
look for that in life, right? Like it's the red
Yeah,
car
yeah.
syndrome or phenomenon or whatever. But once you start noticing things, you see it everywhere.
Right. So just to elaborate on that, there's something called the red car phenomena, I guess. And basically, if you buy a red car and you leave the lot, you'll all of a sudden see that there's so many more red cars out there. But the reality is, the number of red cars didn't really change. Maybe plus one because you bought it. But
There's something there rooted in narcissism, but
yeah, for
something.
sure. But like, if someone's saying, "Hey, these things are connected," and you're looking, you're just gonna find things, and a lot of it's just gonna be red herrings. But what is it? 7 degrees of bacon. Thanks, Martha. I'm glad you love the books. Plenty more on the docket.
Let's answer Kathy's question. So, how do you pick the locations in your books? I know that in the past it's been like, where do I want to travel? Where can I go to travel and get inspiration for my books?
Kathy, you wouldn't happen to work for the IRS or the CRA, right? Because that is part of it. When, prior to COVID, there are very few things I can write off as a writer.
Book inspiration is one of them.
Hi, Lisa. So yeah, book inspiration. So I get to travel to fun places, and I get to basically write about them. So that's how I chose some of the places, and other ones, like for instance, I picked New York for Drake just because, I thought it would appeal to most people. Right, everyone knows New York, or they know the idea of New York, even if they haven't been. And also, I don't know how many bajillion people live there. There are other, like Nashville. I went to Nashville. I love Nashville, so I want to do something in and around Nashville. And then when I'm picking like the smaller locales, I just basically Google satellite.
Earth.
Yeah, Google Earth it, and I pick things. Sometimes I make places up, but I always try to keep it within like reason. You know what I mean? So sometimes if it's based on true stories, like true crime, such as Devil's Den, then I use the actual place. That happened in Albuquerque, New Mexico. And other times it's just a random thing, or just look at the geography of it. Like,
But I do see you on like Street View sometimes, like zooming in, trying to find like the.
that's not about my books, though. It's doxing people.
Creepy. No, I've seen you zoom into like street signs and buildings and try to get I guess a name on something or a street corner or whatever.
Yeah, I try, like, obviously, if I'm dealing with locations where terrible things happen, like in after, what is it called? After Effects? No, Adverse Effects.
Adverse. Oh my gosh.
No, in Adverse Effects, I didn't want to use like real church names, right? Bad stuff happened there. Like,
Yeah.
that's not my goal. So I just make something up that sounds reasonable. And then a lot of times I try to get the neighborhoods a little bit correct. I know I kind of fudge it a little bit. In the past, you would have to go and visit these places, and people were crazy if you didn't get exact. You said it took 10 minutes to drive from LA to, downtown to the airport. It takes at least 17 hours, the traffic in LA. Then they get pissed off at you. But
people
usually
do
add,
challenge some details in your book.
Yeah.
Like, you get some emails and.
I usually throw a few lines in there, though, like, again, just poking fun at myself or whatever. If I realize during the editing phase that I made a mistake in terms of the distance, I'll just chintz it out and be like, oh, traffic was surprisingly light that day. I don't know.
Yeah. But
So,
I
yeah.
know that, but yeah, you do. Do you like when people email you and challenge like the details, or is it something that you don't love?
I will say this. Okay,
Honest.
so when it comes to the Beckett books, those are the ones that I like. I'm not a police officer. I'm not doing ride-alongs, right? I have a pretty good understanding how law enforcement works. I never claim to be, right? But when it comes to the Beckett things, I was challenged, not like directly. I wish someone had, not from an antagonistic perspective, just so I could comment on it. But they wrote some reviews in the books, and I was like, man, you are 100% wrong. Like, not only do I have a background in science and medicine, but I do have one of my really good friends, a fantastic ER doc who I consult on everything. And I was talking to one of my daughters the other day, and I said, look, because she loves to read and write, and I was telling her a little about the ins and outs because she tells me all about the stories in incredible detail. And I'm like,
paraphrasing
okay,
hasn't been a skill she's established.
right.
Yet.
And I was like, let's narrow it down. What is the story actually about? What is Harry Potter actually about? And try to distill it down as narrowly as possible. And I tell her, you know, when I'm doing my books, I need things to be like, okay, the horror ones aside, I need things to be possible, right? They don't have to be necessarily plausible or realistic, but they can't be impossible. Like that would just not vibe with my personality. So when someone challenged me on one of the conditions in the book, they're like, "No, this is genetic. It cannot be induced." I was like, "No, you're 100% wrong." So in that case, I don't mind a challenge. I wish it would do it to me instead of posting a review on Amazon. But so to answer your question, do I like when people? What was it again? Do you like?
So
when
it was
people
more like,
challenge-
do you mind when people email you challenging the details of your books, or are they meant to just not be super accurate and everybody should just kind of take everything with a grain of salt?
No. Now you're just putting this in the reader's mind. All these viewers are gonna be like, "Oh, okay, really? There's no 60-second precinct, and there is New York." I think. I don't mind it. It's fine. Like, go ahead. I don't mind.
There was
I like
something about
interacting
an
with fans.
old car that I remember, like something about a type of car that you got an email about, and I was like, oh.
That was actually helpful. So
Yeah. See?
I had.
See?
Yeah. Occasionally we get helpful things, other than just angry emails. Like, why is this book not released? And I do get nice emails too, though. Thank you for everyone who does that. I really, really appreciate them. It makes my day.
Makes your day.
Yeah, makes my day. So I can't remember the context, but it was something about a car, and the car had broken down. I actually think it was in like an earlier Drake book, and it was an older car, and I said what was it? Yeah. Okay. You got me down the rabbit hole here, right?
Yeah, it was something about a model, right? Model.
I like to challenge like Hollywood myths, right? And if you've read all my books, you know that I do this often. Like the idea that you can take a cigarette and then throw it into a pile of gasoline or like a trail of gasoline and light it on fire is bullshit. You can't do it. The cigarette does not burn hot enough. It will never ignite. So I hate seeing that in a movie. It drives me fucking bananas because I know, like I said, that's an impossibility, and my brain won't work that way. So I challenge these often, and one of the things that you've probably seen in some horror movies is they take the car battery, right? In my hands, and you hook up to the car battery, and then you take the clamps and you put them on somebody, and they do their thing, right? Well, that can't happen either. So I didn't know that though. In writing one of the books, I think it was Download Murder. That happens, right? And during my editing phase, I was like, let me just double check that this could happen because I believed it could. Like, movies don't lie.
Yeah.
And I looked it up and they said, no, that's bullshit. It can never happen. And I thought, oh, fuck. So I got to change this. No. So I looked up, how is it possible? Okay. Yeah, I'm going to FBI is listening to me now.
Google search list. Yeah.
I was like, how is it possible to shock someone with a car battery? Is it possible at all? And they said, yes, it is, but you need to remove the alternator, and there have to be a lot. I can't remember exactly now. There have to be a lot of changes made, and then even then, it's probably not going to happen. But that's okay, right? So I put that in my book, and I said, okay, I think it was Drake was investigating. He's like, probably Beckett actually, and he's like, oh, okay, all these things kind of lined up, and then they end up shocking and killing the person. So that worked for me. But to answer your question, I had written something about a car, and I said the catalytic converter actually blew or something. Guys, this is years ago, and somebody wrote me and said, hey, you said it was like a 78 Chevelle, and 78 Chevelle. Yeah, there you go. You can say
they didn't have catalytic.
Yeah.
I don't know that word they used.
They didn't have catalytic converters until 79. And I was like, man, thank you so much. Like, I would never have known that. So I just went and changed it to 79. And so there.
You were off by a year.
Yeah, but I don't know. I'm not a mechanic or whatever. Or a car buff even. I don't have a car.
You don't anymore.
I have these two stems that I move around on very slowly. But I like to run on them.
Weird shoes, yeah.
Very
weird running shoes.
Okay. Andy said There's a concept called Baader Meinhof. Yeah, so that's the red car. That was the red car illusion or phenomenon that we referred to.
Thank
As
you
long
for
as you
this.
follow the rules. Agreed. So sorry, just because if you can't see this chat, if you're on, it should be there.
Yeah, it's on
As
both.
long as you follow the rules. Yeah, agreed. So that is kind of usually a staple of supernatural books and fantasy books. Basically, you have to have some consequence for the characters, and if you keep moving stuff around, it is the reader, finds this very frustrating. I agree. But in terms of my books, the thriller ones, which are set in reality, I just try to make things possible, not impossible. If something's impossible, then I have to scratch that. I had to start over again.
Okay, so you mentioned that there were some new characters this time. Can you tell us about the new characters? Not without any spoiler alerts, I guess.
Yeah,
like
sure.
the characters.
Yeah, so because as you know, this is kind of a spoiler, but I figured.
No, I said no spoiler.
No, but wait. Because this happened books and books ago, Chase is no longer like technically in the FBI, right? So I needed something, and based on what happened in Adverse Effects with Floyd, I needed to have someone for him to interact with. Like, he clearly can't go out on his own. That was a test that he failed miserably, which is kind of what happened, how he developed his PTSD. So I created this new character called Tate Abernathy. And Tate Abernathy really teaches Floyd a lot about how to speak to different people. If you remember Floyd, he had this terrible stutter. He was extremely awkward. He loved trains. Like, he was basically a child, really. Not to say that if you love trains, you're a child, but I don't want to insult anybody here. You got me all twisted now. So he
was more
needed,
than just that.
And Chase was not the best teacher. Let's be honest. Like, okay, half the time Floyd's just running around making sure she doesn't fucking kill herself.
Mm-hmm.
So this character, Tate Abernathy, is really trying to teach him, and he has this unique ability that he has honed from his previous partner, who I'll talk about in a moment, how to sort of be a chameleon. So when you want to interact with a witness or a suspect, they all kind of require different touches, I guess.
Yeah,
different approaches. And so he basically has mastered this ability. And there is a really good scene where Floyd is asking him about why he treated this one character this certain way, whereas Floyd was going to go in there and just go like, good cop, bad cop. And then Tate just shuts him down because he's more senior, and he says, hey, and he runs the show. And then afterwards, Floyd says, well, like, why did you do this? How did you know? And Tate says, well, I noticed all these series of things, and so I knew that he would really he would be very receptive to the idea that he has control. So Tate offers him control, which was kind of like the inverse scenario you would imagine with a FBI agent or law enforcement interrogating a suspect. And this person just divulged a lot of information. It was kind of like Stitz did that in a way, because he basically used silence as his tool. And as most people know, in a world that we live in where it's constant stimulation, if you're just sitting with somebody and nobody's saying anything, it just gets like very, very awkward. And so even though that shouldn't be the case, sometimes, silence is golden. So Stitz would just refrain from saying anything, and the person would just try to fill that void, and they would fill it with information that you wouldn't even necessarily know to ask, right? And so Stitz did that away. This Tate guy does it. And then this answer is very long. I'm sorry, Ashley. Tate learned from his previous partner, whose name is Constantine, and he was a master at that. And so Constantine is the one getting his own series. And then one final thing, someone did write on the Facebook page, or they asked if Stitz was going to be in this book, and well, should I say or no?
Well, I don't know. You were saying no spoilers, so
I do have okay, I'll put it this way. I have plans for Stitz. So if you guys were paying attention in the last few books, Stitz, after what happened in New Mexico, and he was shot, and he has his dog, I think it was Piper. He's kind of moved on, and then him and Chase had this like relationship that was really toxic, very brief, and so he moved on. But then he was drawn back into the fold, and Floyd mentions how, listen, I saw him. He's now teaching in the FBI. He's teaching profiling in the FBI. So I really have an idea about having Stitz teaching new recruits, new trainees in the FBI, and that's what I wanted to do the series about. The problem with that one is I have a hard time, and I mentioned this to you, Ash, when I was talking about Stitz and this potential series. For a guy who's like given up the FBI, let's say, not given up, but like moved on, so to speak, and now he's a teaching role. Mm-hmm. How do I write a book where he is the primary character, right? He's the protagonist, and yet he's not really going back into the field, right? So that's kind of what I'm trying to wrap my head around. Do you know what I mean? Did that make sense at all?
So it's got to be through others. The story has to be through others, right?
I know, and I don't want to do that because Stitz deserves his own series, and I really don't want to throw him back into the field. Although I'm not opposed to that generally, but now he's a teacher, and so I wanted I'm trying to work that out. In my mind. So that's why those books have not gone anywhere.
What is the post relation? You know how Stitz and Chase had a stint. Yep. What's their relationship like post stint?
So. After Painted Ladies, right? That was the one before Adverse Effects. Mm-hmm. Yeah. So after Painted Ladies, basically, Chase distanced herself from everybody. She was with her niece, Georgina. And, by the way, so chat, I've been, right now I'm proofing, Straw Man, which is, I think, Drake's 10th book, the audiobook, sorry. And Michael Pauly kills it. It's so fantastic. There's so many cool voices he does. But I'm listening to Drake call his son Clay, which was his ex-partner's name, right? His late partner's name. And then I'm dealing with Chase calling her niece Georgina, which is her sister's name. I'm like, what is this fucking preoccupation I have with naming people the same fucking name? It's driving me bananas. So I got to stop doing that. Anyway, so she distanced herself from.
It's because you have trouble coming up with names, so you just want to reuse.
Oh, you want to know troubled names? Like, try doing 50 episodes of P.T. Logan's, where it's like Terry, Jerry, Barry, like all the names. It's impossible.
But you have 3 girls who could easily tell you 20 kids each in their class. Just throw those names in there. No one will know.
Bad things happen to these people. They give me their names, but. Yeah. So she distanced herself from everybody. She isolated herself. She wanted to insulate and isolate Georgina, her niece, because she was the guardian. She is the guardian. Because she's trying to protect her, and so she basically broke off all relationships. The only person she communicated with was Louisa, and someone asked, again in the Facebook group, like, who is Louisa? Louisa was the woman that she initially met at the rehab center, and they became very close friends. Louisa saved her life when she tried to, eat those pills. And so they have a really good relationship. They're both recovering, and she has 2 kids of her own. And so that's the only person she kept in touch with. And so you could see in Adverse Effects, like, she just doesn't want to let Georgina go. Like, she will not let her go to school. She's homeschooling her. I mean, Georgina had obviously a very fucked up childhood, but she's surprisingly, and that's another thing that comes up in this book too. Like, the people that Chase wants to hate, she wants to hate Brian and Timothy and the harem of women that he had, including her sister, for what they did, and maybe they are despicable because of that. She finds out that, and this, comes back to what I said earlier about, like, the conditions of the mind, where these people, they were brainwashed, but they still thought they were doing the right thing, and they were still doing right by the people that they loved, right? So she comes to this realization she can't hate these women that raised Georgina until she was like 5 or 6, because they were just doing what they were their best with what they had, right? So they weren't evil people. And I think that's one of the general themes that basically transcends all of my books, is that what defines evil. And it comes up in Strawman specifically when Sergeant Yassif asks Hannah, says, like, what do you think, what's wrong with these people? Why are they doing the things that they do? Why are they doing these heinous crimes? Is it nature? Is it nurture? Is it both? And eventually she settles on, it really doesn't matter why, right? It's just about stopping them. But I don't necessarily agree with that. But these people believe that they're doing the correct thing. And unfortunately, in the process, people get injured and hurt and so on.
Brandy had a good, first, my first thought before we look at Brandy's idea for Beckett.
Stitz, but yeah.
Stitz, sorry. My first thought is that, so you explained Chase and her relationships post stint with Stitz, but you didn't explain the two of them together. So she distanced herself, but how do they interact after?
They didn't really interact.
Romantic endeavor.
Oh, it went fucking south. Everything that happens with Chase went fucking sour. So that happened.
She's not great with the opposite gender.
That's an understatement. Yeah, no, she. So I when she was dealing with her pathologies, right? She basically, anytime she was outside of her, I don't want to say buzzwords, but locus of control. She. Wait.
Throw sound effect. I didn't hear it.
Oh, you can't hear it? Okay.
I
I think the stream can. So anytime she's out of her locus of control, she resorts to what Dr. Mateo says, like her three methods of dealing with that. One is to use, right? And that makes sense because basically you're just, abolishing all feeling. The second is to throw herself in a case. Again, it's kind of numbing herself. She puts herself in a situation where she is dealing with people who have had even worse things happen to them. And the third one is just to use her body and sleep with whomever. And oftentimes it ended up being a suspect or someone related to a crime. And basically that's just her way of like regaining control. And that's kind of what she did with Stitz. The irony there is that Stitz knows these things, but he still fell for it. And he was the one who went off the rails because he kind of fell in love with her, I guess. Or
but I think he liked her the whole time.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
And she tried to stop that immediately, and then things went badly, and Stitz was just getting frustrated. Like, let's be honest, all of Chase's relationships, they start well, and then they drop. And it's kind of like, yeah, it's kind of like Drake in a way. I like Beckett because he said that that Drake is like King Midas, right? So the legend of King Midas, everything he touches turns to gold. He goes, but you're the King Midas of shit. Everything you touches turns to shit. And so basically he has this in his idea in his head, Drake does. And so he doesn't want to get involved with his own child. He doesn't want to get close to people that he like loves because he knows their lives are going to be far, far worse. So even though that is not explicitly stated in the Chase books, that's pretty much what happens to her. She just has this kind of like negative effect on people despite her. And again, it's the theme of her old books. People are trying to do the right thing. And unfortunately, it just doesn't, just trying to do the right thing, it doesn't mean that the right thing is going to happen.
Yeah. Intent doesn't really matter at this point.
Well, but again, this is another theme, like the intent. Does it matter what you intended to do, or is it just what happens, what the result is? So, I don't know.
And does Already Dead end on a cliffhanger?
Yeah, like
that
I said,
would be an Abby question. Abby, our daughter, loves knowing if a book. She loves cliffhangers, and she loves when books end on a cliffhanger.
Well, that's unique because most people fucking hate cliffhangers. I've said this before on these live chats, but people hate cliffhangers, and you can read reviews of books that end in true cliffhangers, and they're like, I fucking hate it. Like, wow, you're going to make me buy another book? And these books sell like mad. Like, literally, the psychology is warped there, but they'll just buy up the next one. So
they're mad about it. They're mad about it, but they'll do it.
I know. So in this case, what happens is you have the arc, right? In the description, the 2 murders, and then maybe there are more. Who knows? Though that case is solved, but the whole dealing with what happened in Franklin, Tennessee, with Brian and some other characters, that is unresolved.
Okay, so perfect for book 10.
Mini. I like those. I like those. Right? I like those mini cliffhangers. I just don't want to feel.
We'll call them danglers.
Okay.
Okay.
Okay. So
yeah.
Go ahead. No, I was going to read Brandy's, but you.
Yeah, that's what I was going to go to. So back to the Stitz. You were struggling trying to figure out how to give him his own move him, his own series, but also not throw him back into the field if he's a teacher, professor, whatever it might be. So Brandy suggests he could be a consultant on cases with maybe flashbacks. That's kind of cool.
I think that's a great idea.
Brandy, you might have nailed it. It's like heading right after this to go and write that next one.
I would be murdered. I would be murdered in my sleep.
Oh,
I have to write the next Chase one. Yeah, but still the problem I have is who is going to be driving the story. So if he's a consultant, you need to have like the actives, I guess. I don't know what's the if you have someone consulting, you have the primaries. The primaries still have to be there, and who are they going to be? Is it same? Is it like?
It could be new characters, but with less emphasis on them. Like the consultant is the one that's you're really like you're seeing the story through their eyes.
Yeah. No, I think it's a good idea. I just have to kind of work that out. Like, I do have I have books. I don't know. This is like an awkward segue, but please pre-order them. I have a series planned with Chase and Drake. Like, they are my best-selling characters, and they are my favorite. I mean, outside of Beckett, but
no, Beckett's your favorite.
I know.
Don't lie to your people here.
Yeah, but I can't.
It honestly, I think it's the thing that bugs you the most out of your entire career as an author is that Beckett's your favorite character and he doesn't sell the best. That's like, if I were to just encapsulate your biggest frustration, it's why is Beckett not my top character or my top selling series?
Right.
I
I agree. I was having a conversation with some of my friends who were not writers, and they were talking about their work, and I made an offhand comment, and they're like, "No, whatever. You could do whatever you want." I was like, "No, I can't. I have to feed the fans with more heroin addicted FBI agents." That's what they want.
Yeah, because whatever you want would be more Beckett, more Beckett, more Beckett.
I agree. However, like there's a limit how much Beckett you take, the sarcasm, the ridiculous jokes. Like I've said this before. Basically, Beckett takes all of these like. He just says whatever he thinks all the time, and it's way non-PC, like it's opposite of politically correct. It would never vibe, and that's kind of an outlet for me, right? Kind of my way of making fun of people and myself and the whole situation. But I do have a series planned, and I'm super excited about writing it. It's with Chase and Drake, and they're going to be the primaries back together again, and they're going to be investigating a very special. They're going to be chasing a serial killer. I guess that's not a spoiler. Like, what else do they do?
And they're partners in it?
Mm-hmm.
Oh, cool.
They are going to be partners, and so I'm so excited.
What city would
that.
they be in?
Thanks for the like, Lisa, and thanks for joining as well. Lisa Reagan's here. Love her books.
Oh, hi, Lisa.
What city? This is going to be a cross-continental thing. I think if you were to say before, when I was speaking about how I make things like, possible, not necessarily plausible, let's say, I'm coming up with a way that, like, this special consultant thing, because Drake is no longer a detective. That is kind of like a stretch. I guess it does happen. So in their case, I think they're going to be a special task force. This is how, by the way, all writers and all fucking TV show people, they always cheat. They make a special task force. That's just a way of getting people together.
Into the same,
into the same milieu, right? Milieu. Yeah.
You see, your French accent
Very
is beautiful.
French.
All these years in Quebec. Woo.
And so there'll be a special task force, and that will be it'll put Chase and Drake together, and they'll be in charge of chasing a killer all over the United States. And I know I have a great idea for that one. It's
Does that mean
percolating.
you can do a tour across the U.S. to get this book out?
Yeah.
Get a Winnebago or an RV. Let's go.
No, private jet. Let's go. Yeah.
Oh, it's a solo trip. You want to go and leave us here?
I mean, Kathy's from the CRA and the IRS, so we have to be careful here.
That's true. So where was this one situated? In 2 different states, right?
Yeah. So
Okay.
this was in Ohio and West Virginia and a bit of Tennessee.
Okay.
So I had to make it for logistical reasons. I had to make it so that it was like drivable.
Oh, I was wondering if it mattered. Yeah, where?
Yeah.
I'm still trying to figure this out because, again, I will state to the room here that I haven't yet read it. It's been out for a couple days. So I'm failing as a wife maybe, but I know Victoria has probably read it front to back. Mm-hmm. Did she? Do we know this? Top fan alert. Has she read it?
Does she have the badge still?
Yeah,
I don't know. I think someone wrote on. Oh, actually, if you guys have read it, like again, pure shameless plug here. Like, please post a review. Really appreciate the reviews.
Just let me
always.
say it so it doesn't come from you. Please post a review. It'll help him sleep at night.
Oh, thank you. No. Like I just like to see. I want to make sure that you guys. Like, this is 9 books deep, right? So I want to make sure I continue to provide you with the.
It's crazy. Every time you go to press publish, I'm imagining this big red button that says publish, because I think that's what happens. So when you go to press that big red button, you wonder. It's like there's this imposter syndrome creeping up where you're like, I'm not sure if this one is good. I hope they like it. I don't know if they're going to like it. Every single time. This is what, your 57th book? Same thoughts go through your mind every single time. And I find that fascinating. I find it strange and fascinating.
Do you want me to disagree with that, or?
No, I mean, feel free to agree for once.
I think at this point,
Hi, Vic.
Hey Vic, I think at this point, like I pretty much know my way around a story, right? And I'm confident in the writing. Mm-hmm. But I found, okay, of all my books in the series that sell really well, okay, of all my books, the one that actually seems to have triggered people a lot is Almost Infamous. So that's the 2 books ago, before, I guess, the 8th book in the Drake series. Mm-hmm. Almost Infamous, I had a lot of people write me and a lot of reviews say, hey, I don't know what the fuck happened. This is not what I expected. I've given up.
Very different from the others.
And I really didn't understand that. I know that it was a bit different because I did spend a considerable amount from the perspective of the antagonist. So basically the bad guy is within that book. But that book is based on a true story. I don't know, influenced by a true story. I don't know the legal jargon here. Mm-hmm. And I really wanted to show what it was like to have a character like become so manic and become so obsessed. And it wasn't a social commentary, but it was about this guy who was obsessed with becoming famous and literally show his descent into madness and self-destruction and then ultimately destruction of other people. And I really thought that and I kind of played that off with the similarities between him and what Drake was doing to himself and how they interacted in the end. I thought it was a cool interplay, but I guess people, and then obviously there was some harming of animals in it, and which is like usually a no-go for any author. I don't know if you guys know this, but you can literally write whatever heinous thing you want about what happens to a person, but when you write about what happens to animals, unfortunately people really get upset about it. I mean, I don't want to say justifiably so, because bad stuff happens to
crimes to humans are like, we should be equally appalled.
I guess, yeah. But this was based on a true story. So. Yeah. This is based on a true story, so I kind of that was the only book. I'm not sure what the question you asked was. Oh yeah, okay. So when I wrote that book, I felt that it was very much in line with Drake. I thought it fit the mold, but apparently I kind of missed the mark on that one. I'm still very proud of it.
It's only because you got a couple direct comments. I think overall it was still well received. I think you're focusing on that again. That small percentage of people that did.
No, but I'm still learning, right? So I learned in that
we all are.
That people are less receptive to my interpretation. Again, I'm just interpreting random like troll reviews or whatever, or like the email I got. My God, like it was
tearing you a new one.
No, what? Like it was. I can't. I'm not gonna. Whatever. Let's just say that it was a lot of spelling errors to the point where it was almost incomprehensible. But I got the gist of it.
When you're mad, you spell bad.
I'm like, this is like, man, someone had a fucking bottle of Pinot Noir or some shit. And they were fucking sitting in the bathtub. They had the toaster in one hand, and they had the Pinot Noir in the other, reading my book on the Kindle, and they dropped them both. That's what they fucking wrote. Jesus Christ. I know I write to this person. I wish I could just go. One day I'm just going to show this email. It was fucking, I said, look. And then she's like, I really hope that you go back. And I was like, listen, I'm sorry you didn't like it.
You're putting that
I can't stop now.
That's not fair.
Okay, yeah. It's a troll voice. Yeah, so the question.
Might have to do another reading of your reviews live with some different voices and props.
So like, I didn't sign up for this. No, it's Sean Connery.
Yeah, now she sounds like Sean. No, but they're entitled, and the fact that she wrote the fact that she wrote you and was like enraged is also it's a response and it's passion, and that's all part of it.
But then I wrote her back. It was just fucking crickets. I'm like, fuck off. Like,
you did write her back? Oh.
Of course I wrote her back. I tried to write every person back, but like I wrote her back.
Did you hear that, folks?
Try to. The emails get pushed down.
You text me back, and you're writing back trolls on the internet. Come on.
Yeah. Anyway, so Brandy wrote back on track. Could be with new characters, but with a case, and maybe with similar to old case, but with a twist. Okay. I really want to. I want to write some books, and this there is a segue here. I want to write some cold case books where. Well, you know what cold cases are, right?
Mm-hmm.
But I don't know how to do that. Even though I've read some books where they do the cold cases.
Have you watched the Cold Case Files?
Yeah, I did. But I don't, like, for me, the excitement of a book is almost always the ticking clock. So I have to remind myself sometimes about the ticking clock, right? So basically that means, like, they need to act quickly. Otherwise, more people die. That's pretty much the gist of it, right?
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
Or bad things happen, or a bomb, or ticking clock. I mean, ticking bomb, right? Ticking clock? I don't know. Anyway, so a bomb's going to explode. Like, literally, if you're writing a book, this should be your main driver. They need to catch the person before he kills again. They need to stop the bomb.
That's one of the things, but also when you think about cold case, it's like, how fast can you give closure to the family that's wondering? Like, that's another impetus.
But when I think of cold cases, I'm thinking of shit like years and years ago, and I'm so like, what's the urgency? They're still living in this
mystery, and it's like you can give them closure. That is like the best gift you can give them. So it's kind of like
for sure. Don't get it twisted. I understand the value of researching these cold cases and finding out, but from a perspective of the author and getting like that kind of momentum and drive for the reader, I presently don't know how to do that. Right? And I know that, and actually, I was thinking about this today on my run. I was like, I could only do it one way right now. It'd be like, there's a cold case, and now it's a new case. There are more deaths. And I'm like, oh, that's not really a cold case, though, right? So, I don't know. That's kind of the same thing with Stitz. If he's just teaching people, what's the urgency, right, for him to... for the reader to keep reading, right? Like, how do I get that kind of motivation for the character and reader?
If you're thinking about it from your perspective, then maybe, but readers like the idea of a cold case, like cracking open.
No, they do well.
So it's probably more in your own writing of the story than in the reader?
My abilities or lack thereof. Am I right? Stick to what you know. They say that.
What about
Faulkner.
Andy's question? Lots of movie directors have gone back and re-edited, changed, added, removed things of their original or early films. Would you consider doing that, rebooting an earlier title? And I wrote like Skin, like something like that, like pulling that out and doing a remake.
Okay. Have I thought about doing that?
No, would you
Yes.
consider doing it?
Would I consider doing it? Yes, but no.
Okay.
But
yes,
no.
but no.
I don't think I could go. Look, Skin. My first book I ever, the second book I ever wrote, first book I ever published. I haven't read that in like 5 years. I don't know, right? And could I go back now, having written 50 plus books since, and make it better? Well, undoubtedly, right? But is that a time investment that I want to make for a book that is like, let's be honest, doesn't really sell that well anymore? It's more just like it was just an ego thing, I guess. Like, why would I do that? Like, it's fine. It's a good book, right? I'm not going to go back and just re-edit it and make it a little bit better just for the sake of doing it.
You don't, even though there's sad faces coming up, it's okay.
Hey, man, I'm brutally honest, but...
We've got Vic asking, who in the hell is Veronica and Penelope?
Fuck. Yeah.
Who are these
I think
people?
you mean where in the hell are they?
Oh.
Okay, so...
You have a half book written?
Yeah, Penelope, I wrote half the book.
Penelope June?
A rookie cop who she breaks some rules, let's say, like she's not like a chase type, but she does something that she shouldn't do, and then she gets kind of like put on a leave of absence, and then she goes to her town where there are these murders happening, and she becomes involved in that investigation. That's Dying to Breathe, and there's some like past history of her own that comes into play. That one is half written. I'm super stoked about that one. I think that one's going to be a bit different because Drake and Chase, even though Chase was very, very like, she was a rookie when she joined the FBI. She already had like a lot of history, right? Both physical and emotional. This is going to be kind of like a new character. Obviously, she has a backstory that comes into play, but she's going to be more of like a noob, let's say. Kids, look at that. Pure noob. And then for Veronica, years and years ago, I learned about something called multimodal synesthesia. So synesthesia is I think it's a biological condition. Anyways, I don't want to misclassify it, but your senses get confused in your brain. So you can, if you had a certain type of this synesthesia, it would be like you hear music and certain notes taste like different things. So you're actually physically feeling the taste of chocolate when you hear like a baritone. I'm making this up, but...
Like if the music's bad, you taste shit?
Yeah, like if you're listening to some fucking mum rock like you listen to, it's pure diarrhea in your mouth.
Oh, sorry, my mom rock.
Alanis Morissette or whatever. No, you're...
She's actually the best person you could have used.
She's actually a mom, too. She's like great. 75. But anyways, great. Moms are great. So... She you would taste something when you hear certain notes, and it's basically the signals, the wires are crossed in your brain. Or when you smell something, or you will see something that doesn't exist when you get inundated with a taste, something like that, right? So it's getting all mixed up. And so there's something called multimodal synesthesia, where all of your senses are kind of fucked up, and they're misinterpreted in your brain. So you're hearing, seeing, blah blah blah, like as I just described. So my idea for that character, Veronica Shade, is that, she basically has an ability when she smells something or sees something that she puts like I don't want to make it sound too corny or cliched or supernatural, but she gets like kind of these auras that relates to her, her ability to solve crimes. Let's say, it's a very simplistic answer, but that was my idea for her. Yeah. So Andy says I have it associate colors with letters automatically. Yeah, I don't think it's an association more than it's like an actual biological thing that's happening in your brain or a psychological thing, but very similar. Okay, so that answers your 2 questions. I'm working on them, guys. Like I really, really appreciate you sticking with me because it has been a very lean couple of years with COVID and a lot of other reasons, but I'm getting back into the groove and I'm excited to put out more books. Yes. So there you go. So Lisa
he won't
said,
listen to me if I try to get him to do anything else. So don't blame me either. I've gotten some people hitting me up to try to get him to write more faster, but it doesn't work that way.
Yeah. Do you want to read Lisa's question?
Oh, I didn't see it.
No, I think she continue along.
Some books I've read. Oh yeah, the same thing. Vic. Some books I've read have cold cases that tie into new ones, and that's kind of building it on your.
Yeah, I said that before. Like, I just don't want to do. I feel like if I'm going to do series, because I love writing in series, I don't want to just say, hey, it's cold cases, but it's actually not. It's just like new cases that have some tie to the past. So I'd rather not do that, just personally. And then Vic asks, will Beckett's new one be out in paperback? Vic, I don't think so. It's 15,000 words, so we'll probably put it in the 70-page mark. And it's just, like the way that Amazon works in selling these books, I don't want to charge you guys like $15 or whatever, $10 for a book that's 70 pages. So that one I'll probably keep. What I thought, if I do write another Beckett book, and by the way, it would be called like Don't Go to Sleep or something like that, because I have an idea with something to do with insomnia. Then I debated putting it inside that book. So I would, if I did a paper book for a full-length Beckett novel, I would throw it in there for you guys who love your paperbacks. Yeah. But at present, probably not. And audio, probably not as well. If I do it, I'll do it myself.
And I'm asking on behalf of the paperback lovers. This one comes out in the next week in paperback. Already dead.
I feel like I have said this a billion times. So what happens is, as soon as I finish the Kindle version, like just finish writing the book, I can upload it, and I have obviously the cover made because you've seen a lot of these covers because they've been on pre-order. And I basically click a button and it goes live. And within like 4, 5, 6 hours, it's available for you guys to get. But with the paperback, in order to get the full jacket, like the back part of it, I guess I wish I had a book to show you. I need to tell my cover designer, thanks, like exactly how many pages it is, because he has to design the spine. And it's not the same as like the number of pages that my Word document tells me or what Kindle tells you, because with the Word document, it's continuous, right? And on your Kindle, you just keep going. But I have to like put the page breaks and everything in there. This is so boring. And I have to make sure that everything's on a new page and all that kind of bullshit. I know. And I have to send that shit to him. So I can't do that until after I've written the book and after I've done these fucking page breaks. Then I send it to him, and then he takes whatever, about a week to get it back to me with like the back text and all that and the spine width. And it has to be exactly, otherwise Kindle rejects it.
So you could wait. You could wait until that's all done and then press publish on Kindle, no? The big red button.
I could do that. I'm not going to do that.
So they wouldn't feel like second-class citizens. Mm-hmm.
They're not second-class citizens.
No, they feel it. They feel it when they're waiting. Mm-hmm. Huh. Maybe that's something we could try next time. Waiting for the paperback and then releasing all together, holding hands, singing Kumbaya.
Yeah, okay. Maybe the audio too. Maybe I'll tell my bank, like, I'm not going to pay the fucking mortgage this month. Yeah. No. Like, that's just the way it's going to be from now on. I tried. Don't say I didn't try. If I had shit planned to, yeah, Linda. Is Linda here? What's up, Linda?
Is she here?
I hope so. No, I haven't seen her in chat, but.
No, she'd be speaking about paperbacks if she was
here. No, I love paperbacks too. So I'm going to continue to do them with all the full length novels. But yeah, it's usually about a week because of that. I can't really control. Like I wrote him as soon as I had it done. I said the exact number of pages. I got the ISBN. I'm like, here it is, and then he's like, okay, I'll do it in like a couple days. I don't know. He doesn't say. Usually it takes less than a week, and then it takes a little longer actually. Because these things are printed on demand through Amazon, they make sure that everything is perfectly formatted. So it goes through like a 24 or 48 hour kind of review period. I don't know if there's some actual guy on the other end reviewing it or not. I have no idea. Like, I don't really understand why Kindle takes like 4 to 6, 8 hours to review. Like, what are they doing? There's no guy doing it. But with the paperback anyways, I think they do make sure that things line up. And so, yeah, that's it.
Okay. And then I have another question. The original crime that happens at the beginning of Already Dead.
Yeah.
Is that the only crime that happens, and then they look for the reason, the motive, the killers, or does that same crime happen multiple times, or do other crimes happen throughout?
You trying to?
I haven't read the book, so there are no spoilers. I'm
spoiler.
literally wondering if there's more than just that one.
Okay, it would be a fucking boring ass book if the crimes were already committed. And they're like, okay, now.
Really?
One day I want to troll you guys. One time I'm gonna write a book where it's like this shit just randomly happened. It was actually just an accident, and to do like 400-page book, and at the end be like, that's it.
That'll be your final book, and then someone
exactly,
would kill you.
Because then no one will buy my shit again.
No, I didn't mean that it happened off screen, off book, off page, whatever you call it when it's a book. I meant that original crime that happens at the beginning of the book. I'm assuming it happens.
Yeah, I can read you some.
Okay, this is the perfect segue. Let's end with a reading then, please.
All right, I'll read you a little bit.
Perfect. Don't change your voice to like a deep
of my books, you mean?
Yeah.
All right. I will read you the prologue. I'm not going to show it on the screen here, but
okay. Everyone get cozy.
Yeah, I'm not going to read forever either.
How many pages? Because last time I had to cut you off. I had to fish hook you off the stage. How many pages?
I don't know how many pages.
Okay.
Oh, for you guys who are wondering, this is a pretty long book at like 80,000 words. So I think the actual page count for the paperback was 327.
Okay, and you're reading the prologue of Already Dead.
Okay. Already Dead. A Chase Adams FBI
don't change your voice. Just read normally.
Book 9. All right, here you go. Already Dead. Prologue. Death is a curious state of being, or more accurately, it would be if you had some alternative state to compare it to. Unfortunately, 22-year-old Ruth Pierce never had that luxury. While it was true that she breathed and occasionally ate, albeit sparingly, and only when explicitly directed to do so, Ruth wasn't truly alive. Not by her estimation, anyway. And perhaps this was one of the reasons why nobody paid any attention to her. That and the fact that she was filthy, with stringy dark hair covering most of her face, and she reeked of urine and feces.
Ew.
Smells? Ruth sat alone on the sidewalk, her rag-covered back pressed up against the brick wall. The building upon which she rested was unoccupied, but this had nothing to do with her presence. That honor was bestowed upon the nightclub not 30 feet away. While this particular hotspot catered to some of the wealthiest Columbusite, yeah, that's what you call people from Columbus, yeah. Columbusite club-goers, the music was loud and obnoxious. If Ruth had any thoughts about the building outside which she loitered, she might have concluded that it was likely to remain vacant for some years to come. Contributing to Ruth's anonymity was that when most patrons exited the club and left the comforts of the neon lights above, ironically or perhaps idiotically spelling out the club's name, which happened to be Neon, they turned right. Then they would walk, stumble, trip, and fall their way to their taxi, Uber, Lyft, hooker pickup area. Then they would get in their ride and annoyingly shout at their drivers that they were going to the rich part of town. No, not that part, with the stuffy old people with their ancient money, but the new part, the part where the crypto millionaires lived, where tact and tacky had somehow become reversed. Nobody turned left outside of Neon. Nobody headed toward the parking lot and unwittingly came across the foul-smelling dead girl. Well, maybe not nobody. There was one person who had driven to the club tonight, a man who typically used a car service, but tonight had taken it easy. Dr. Wayne Griffith III had surgery scheduled for the morning. He was performing breast augmentation on the wife of a local congressman, and he wanted to be fresh. It wasn't just that he was friends with both the congressman and his wife, but doing an exceptional job would lead to more work from high-profile clients. Business was good, great even, but just in case things with Mrs. Griffin III didn't come to a sanguine conclusion, Wayne needed to make sure he was flush enough to support both of their habits, or at least 50% of them. Unfortunately, the woman who hung on Wayne's arm suggested that a resolution to their marital strife wasn't trending in a positive direction. "I'm parked over here," he said, leading Julia toward the abandoned building. Unlike some of the men who left Neon with one or multiple female companions, Wayne knew the name of the girl in his arm, Julia Drager. She was someone he really cared for, which made tomorrow's surgery even more important. He wasn't positive he wanted things with Mrs. Griffin III to become copacetic. Besides, they both needed a fresh start. It was long overdue. Things just hadn't been the same since Rebecca left, and that was 2 years ago. "You okay to drive?" Julia asked. Her lips were painted a deep red, and when she spoke, they never quite touched. She'd imbibed quite a bit more than him. "I'll be fine. A cross between a grunt and a moan cut him off mid-sentence. Most people may not have noticed it or assumed that it was just one of those sounds generated by the night, but not Wayne. He'd heard it before, years back when Wayne had been a resident in the emergency room, twice to be exact. But both those experiences were haunting enough to have stuck with him for more than 2 decades. It was a death rattle. "Wayne?" Julia asked as she adjusted her white blouse. The top 2 buttons were undone, revealing large, round breasts.
No, read it.
Most men who didn't share Wayne's professional experience would have assumed that they were fake. He knew them to be very real. Death rattle or not, Wayne was distracted, if only for a moment. "Did you hear that?" he asked, drawing his gaze from Julia's chest and scanning the surrounding area. Only one of the nearest streetlights worked, and the sad yellow light that it emitted revealed nothing but an empty sidewalk. "I didn't hear anything," she glanced over her shoulder, "except the music." She tried to move Wayne forward, but he remained rooted. "Wait, just hold on a second." As Wayne's eyes adjusted to the dim lighting, he scanned the dark building next to Neon. After nearly 30 seconds, he finally spotted the source of the sound. Someone was huddled in what could have been either dirty towels or a blanket, and leaning awkwardly up against a brick wall. "Hello? Are you okay?" he asked tentatively. "Excuse me. Wayne, let's just go," Julia urged. "Please." The small hairs on the back of Wayne's neck were standing at attention, and he felt an odd sense of unease wash over him. There was something strangely unnatural about the situation, and, whatever it was, had primed his autonomic nervous system. Wayne overrode the fight-or-flight response and approached the person slumped against the wall. It was his duty as a physician to see if they were okay, if they needed help, which was undoubtedly the case. Julia felt no such compulsion and remained a few feet back. "Hello?" The closer Wayne got to the figure, the stronger the smell became. There were the odors characteristic of vagrancy. Sour urine, putrid feces.
Ew.
But there was something else as well, something far worse. Wayne was forced to cover his nose and mouth with the crook of his elbow. "Excuse me." He reached out with his free hand and to touch what he thought was the figure's shoulder, and as he did, the moan recurred. The sound was so laden with pain and anguish that it gave Wayne shivers. One of what he now saw were rags slipped down, revealing a bare arm. Wayne had seen a good many things in his time that would have made other men vomit, but this was the first time that he nearly succumbed to the urge. The smell that seemed to accost not just his nose, but all of his senses at once, derived from rotting human flesh. The bare arm was covered in weeping pustules, most of which were encircled by dark areas of necrotic skin.
Ew.
"Jesus Christ," Wayne whispered as he drew back. The figure moved. Just a minor tremble, but this was still startling. It was nearly inconceivable that someone with this degree of putrefaction and gangrene could still be alive. "Julia?" When Wayne got no response, he turned his head. Julie had clearly caught a whiff of the stench because she'd backed up a considerable amount. "Call 911. Tell them—" He stopped when the woman raised a hand and pointed not at Wayne, but behind him. "Wayne? Wayne!" Movement out of the corner of Wayne's eye drew his gaze back to the rotting corpse. He saw a flash of greasy hair and roomy, lifeless eyes. What he didn't see until it was too late was the knife in the hand that wasn't exposed. "You need to stay still," he implored. "Help is..." The figure, which he now saw was a woman, lunged. This was so unexpected that Wayne toppled, even though his attacker couldn't have weighed more than a small dog. One side of his neck was still covered with the crook of his elbow, but the other was exposed. The woman didn't hesitate. She jammed the knife into the soft pocket of flesh just below Wayne's jawbone. He instinctively shoved her backward, which turned out to be a mistake. Before the blade came free, it raked from his jaw to his chin, filling his mouth and esophagus with blood. "Wayne!" he heard Julia scream from somewhere behind him. He tried to rise to his feet, but staggered. Blood was everywhere, all at once. Wayne desperately tried to put pressure on his throat, using both hands, but the hot, viscous fluid sprayed from between his fingers. It was like trying to stem a leak in the Hoover Dam with a tiny ball of plasticine. "Julia," he attempted to say, but the word became a sloppy, wet mess at his lips. Wayne experienced a single moment of clarity before darkness swarmed in. He saw his assailant raise the blade covered in his blood. He saw her glance skyward and flick tendrils of oil-saturated hair from her face. Then he glimpsed the sickly woman drive the knife that had taken his life into her own throat and drag it across without a single moment of indecision. So that's it. That's the prologue.
Is that the end of the prologue? Yeah.
That is the completion of the prologue.
Oh, well, grody, as Kathy says, and like I got shivers a couple times with the smell-o-vision.
Well, yes, it's very grody.
How many chapters are there?
There are, I think, it's 65 plus an epilogue.
Okay. Good. Well, it was very descriptive. And I guess now I've read the prologue, so I'm on my way.
Yeah, for sure.
Thank you for doing that for me and for us.
I apologize. My throat's so dry.
I know.
Coughing.
We needed to give you some more water or something next time. I don't think beer coats your throat in the same way.
So that sets the stage. So that is kind of like, that is one of the vagrants who kills Wayne. Yeah, so.
Well, wait, one of the vagrants that kills Wayne. Oh, no.
Well, that's one of the, one of the deaths that I describe in the description.
Yes, got it.
Well, I hope you enjoy it, Kathy. It was a labor of love.
Yeah. Yay. Okay, well, that's good. I think we should end on that. End on the high and on the reading.
Or low for Wayne, I guess.
Oh yeah, poor Wayne. Wayne. And when the next one comes out, we will see you back here.
Yeah.
And I will have read this one. You can quiz me on it.
Thank you, everybody, for coming out. Again, pick up the book, read it, enjoy it, and make sure to leave a review.
And throw a like here.
Hit a like. Yeah, we had a bunch of likes here.
Okay, I wasn't watching.
I'm so sorry about the coughing. Vic, thank you for the like. Lisa, thank you for like. Lisa,
get you some hauls.
Andy, everyone who shared this and liked it. I really enjoy doing these things. Feel free to post next time in the event, I guess. I don't know. I made a Facebook event, right?
I think so.
Sounds very professional.
Very official.
Yeah. Post some questions there. Anything you have with about any of the books, and I'll try to get to it.
Okay.
Thanks, Kathy,
Bye,
Andy,
everyone.
Brandy. I will do the outro, the cool effects.
Yeah.
And thank you, Ash, for hosting again.
Oh, you're welcome. I like to grill you a little. I was pretty nice tonight.
I know. Maybe too nice. Who knows?
You made me dinner, so.
What else is new? Bye, everyone. Love you, Thurligans. See you soon.